With the news that CM Punk is negotiating a buyout of his AEW contract, could the Second City Savior be positioning himself for a return to WWE? We'll talk about the details surrounding all of that. Plus, Bray Wyatt will be on SmackDown tonight. What are the plans for his second appearance on the blue brand since returning to WWE? Billy Gunn on Monday Night Raw. How close did he come to reuniting with his D-Generation X stablemates? Chris Jericho, of course, has recently re-signed with AEW. We've got the WWE backstage reaction to that. Kyle Anderson had to cancel his New Japan Pro Wrestling Never Openweight Championship match recently, and the New Japan president is reportedly furious about the clash in bookings, and also an interesting new home for the WWE Network in the Philippines. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. So let's start off talking about which this year has been full of surprises. Some of the biggest and most monumentous incidents have happened this year, 2022 in pro wrestling. Vince McMahon retiring from WWE, leaving the company, Triple H coming in, Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling in the main event of WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes returning to WWE, CM Punk, the backstage brawl at All Out, all that kind of stuff, and we may just be on the precipice of another massive story if you believe the rumors, hearsay, and if you read the tea leaves a little bit, because could CM Punk, former WWE champion, former two-time AEW world champion, and still currently under contract to AEW, suspended but still under contract, could CM Punk possibly return to WWE? Is that a real thing? Well, never say never. Now, CM Punk is back in the news after things have been a bit quiet about his AEW status and future. Now, this comes from a story via Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, so be sure to check that out. Of course, it's their Patreon service. Be sure to subscribe. They've got excellent news stories and coverage on all things pro wrestling. And with the uncharacteristic movement on the all-out brawl-out situation on Tuesday, October 18, that being Ace Steel, longtime friend and trainer of CM Punk and AEW producer, being fired from All Elite Wrestling, the Elite being referenced and being in commercials, and some overall discussion, CM Punk news has also emerged as well. We covered this in today's AEW news story that went up earlier on today. Be sure to check that out. But if you haven't heard the news, the Wrestling Observer newsletter had noted that it looks doubtful that CM Punk will be back, and that those close to the situation claim that AEW are in active talks with Punk about a potential buyout of his contract. Now, the sticking point in all of this is, by all accounts, a non-compete clause, which is seemingly the hold-up. So this non-compete situation, which WWE usually has when they release talents, it's a 90-day situation. We'd heard rumors before when it was rumored that Malachi Black had been released. Of course, he hadn't been, but there might have been a conditional release with a non-compete clause. It would appear the hold-up in CM Punk's departure from AEW is this conversation, this negotiation on a non-compete clause. That appears to be the hold-up. Now, there have been some other wrestlers who'd asked out of their details who were told they could sit it out with an extended non-compete, but still work the indies. However, they were in a much different situation to CM Punk. Now, a contract buyout for CM Punk was mentioned in the very early process based on those that were close to the situation. I believe it was also Wade Keller first reported this weeks ago that he believed that CM Punk and AEW would result in a buyout of his contract. However, as of Tuesday, following the AEW All Out incident, most around CM Punk told Fightful that realistically he can't expect to be back in the company. There were numerous AEW talent who said they aren't even interested in working in a locker room that CM Punk's involved in again, unless, and this is a big unless, but unless huge amends are made, and how the night made All Elite Wrestling look in general. Of course, it was a massive black eye for the young company. Now, since the talent meeting that took place in the days after All Out, talent that Fightful spoke with didn't expect CM Punk back, and numerous operated on the assumption he wouldn't be around again, and we've seen CM Punk in AEW for the final time. Now, all of this discussion about a non-compete clause leads people to say, well, why would CM Punk have any issue with a non-compete clause? He's got, I think, at least a year or a couple of years left on his AEW contract. If he does have a buyout, he'd be paid handsomely. So why would he have any issue with a non-compete clause? Is this an indication that CM Punk would be open to returning to WWE? Or in reality, has he already had some feelers sent out to him by the new regime, by Triple H, on a potential return to the company? Now, of course, Punk can't wrestle at the moment because not only is he suspended and under AEW contract, but also he's injured. He suffered a torn triceps at All Out. He's out for 9 months because of that. He underwent surgery just days after the incident in question, so Punk couldn't wrestle if he wanted to right now for WWE anyway, but it doesn't stop the speculation linking Punk to a return to the company. Now, again, it wouldn't be the first time that CM Punk has negotiated with WWE since he walked out of WWE back in 2014, of course, because CM Punk revealed it in interviews after he signed with AEW. He did negotiate with WWE. He held talks. He said, don't play games. They played games. He decided to end the negotiations there. He signed with AEW. Of course, he was also on WWE Backstage on FS1. That was a Fox deal. That wasn't a WWE deal, but he has had talks with WWE before, so the door isn't completely shut on a WWE return. Now, the report continues here because Fightful actually spoke with WWE sources who wouldn't comment in an official capacity, but on background provided them with some updates and some insights on CM Punk and his relationship or the thought process about bringing Punk back to the company in the past. Now, they said that they didn't think that Vince McMahon would have brought CM Punk back in, especially after the incident at All Out, and noted that Fox had pushed for it to happen before AEW signed him. That was widely reported at the time that Fox was somewhat disappointed, or Fox pushed WWE hard to make CM Punk an offer because clearly they had also been told, people at Fox had been told, CM Punk would be open and would be interested in returning to pro wrestling, and Fox said to WWE, sign this guy, we want him on our network. Ultimately, it didn't happen. However, the line of thinking that was presented to Fightful under the Triple H regime is that in the right situation, the right money, and the right creative can leave the door open for, quote, anything within reason. One said, quote, Triple H wants to be a success and make compelling programming more than anything. CM Punk back in WWE is compelling programming, but I can't see it being a full-time deal like he had in AEW because of exactly what happened in AEW. That's even if he has interest. If he gets a buyout, he may not need to work again. Now, nobody from Punk's side or AEW have officially confirmed or denied anything right now, and word from AEW offices regarding the situation has been completely silent since it happened, of course, with the looming threat of litigation and legal issues being something that has also held this up. The company hasn't even actually confirmed that CM Punk is even suspended in the first place, despite everyone knowing that it's true. So, this is fascinating for me, and I did kind of touch on this earlier on when I spoke about it during the AEW news video that we did today. I can't sit here and say CM Punk will never return to WWE because this year the evidence is there that anything can happen. Anything can and will happen in pro wrestling, and CM Punk did negotiate with WWE in the past, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. And frankly, the indicators are there to say that if he doesn't want to non-compete, clearly he's not done wrestling. He doesn't feel like he's done wrestling at all, or at the very least, he wants to have his options open. And maybe with how things did end in AEW, he even more feels like he has unfinished business. And he will always have unfinished business in WWE, despite what he said in the past. Now, I had felt that a CM Punk return was more likely under the Vince McMahon regime as opposed to the Triple H regime because, CM Punk, when he walked out of WWE, he had that meeting with Vince McMahon. Triple H was him, and he said all of these things to Vince McMahon's face. Of course, there was litigation, and CM Punk was fired on his wedding day by WWE, and Vince McMahon was in charge there. But you did feel like CM Punk did have somewhat of a relationship with Vince as opposed to Triple H, and Vince has a history of putting, bad feelings aside and bringing people back to the company if he felt that they could make him money or they could do business. Triple H, on the other hand, we know the relationship that isn't there with CM Punk and Triple H. CM Punk has been vicious in talking about Triple H in the past, and Triple H also has said things about CM Punk too. I mean, if you go back and watch, I think it's the Ultimate Warrior documentary on the WWE Network, Warrior goes in to have that meeting with Triple H in his office at Stanford at the WWE headquarters, and there's the Royal Rumble poster, which at the time CM Punk was front and center of, and it's got a post-it note right over his face because Triple H doesn't like him. But Triple H is in charge now. He's not CEO of the company, but he's the chief creative officer. He's in charge of, was it chief content officer, whatever his title is. He's in charge of what we see on television. He makes the deals for the talent. And in addition to that, he does the creative for all of the shows. And if Triple H thinks that CM Punk coming back to the WWE is going to get buzz and make WWE money, he will do it. And I still am under the mindset that actually his run, I guess his somewhat now infamous run in AEW, makes his WWE return actually bigger. CM Punk coming back to WWE after the walkout and after the amount of time that it's been, it would have been a massive story anyway. But the fact that, he did dip his toe back into the wrestling world and it ended the way it ended, getting this guy that the last time we saw him on AEW television, he was the AEW World Champion back within the company. It would be a massive story, and I don't know if we can rule it out. Now, again, the non-compete clause is also strange because CM Punk can't wrestle for 9 months. Doesn't mean he can't appear on television, and maybe that's different. Maybe that's Punk's thought process here that, well, I could come back and do something, and I could get the world buzzing when it comes to that. I'm not sure what his thought process may be, or maybe this non-compete clause is actually the remainder of his original contract. And if his contract's remaining for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, he's not going to want to sit out of pro wrestling opportunities for 3 years. That's a long period of time, and a lot can change during that period of time. But at the same time, he'd be paid handsomely too, because he'd be paid out all of his guaranteed money. So it's still very complicated. You can let me know in the comment section below. Do you think there's ever a chance? Do you think there's ever a chance CM Punk could return to WWE? Could this be the next grand return to the company under the Triple H regime? It'd certainly be the biggest, and it would be a wild story if it does indeed happen. Well, speaking from one return, let's go to another, that being Bray Wyatt. Of course, Bray Wyatt is the biggest name to officially return to WWE, and of course, it's Friday Night SmackDown tonight, live on Fox, and Bray Wyatt will be appearing on the show once again, and we have an update on the plans for him this evening, so spoilers ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. Not too much, but certainly it's interesting. This comes once again from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, and they provided an update saying that Bray Wyatt looks to be on SmackDown once again. Now, after actually returning at Extreme Rules and cutting a promo on last week's SmackDown, it looks like that may be his regular home. Now, Fightful Select is reporting and has learned plans as of yesterday afternoon, calling for Bray Wyatt to appear on SmackDown once again this week. Originally, it was rumored, or had been put out there, that Wyatt would be appearing on both Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. So far, of course, that hasn't been the case. The draft is, I guess, going to happen after WrestleMania. The brand split doesn't mean really all that much anymore. I know that we've got a situation where Rey Mysterio was traded to SmackDown, and Baron Corbin was drafted to Monday Night Raw, and that they're trying to keep up the brand split in that essence. I don't really I don't think there's much of a brand split, to be honest. But there, he's going to be appearing on SmackDown. Now, the last that Fightful had heard, and I guess we'll be seeing once again tonight, was that the Uncle Howdy version of the mask that Bray Wyatt has been using and closed the show actually last week will be implemented again. Of course, plans can change since then, so we might see something different. However, I would suspect we're going to see more and find out more about what this Uncle Howdy character is and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what's going to happen tonight. So there you go. That's the latest when it comes to Bray Wyatt. And of course, tomorrow we'll do a video talking about what Bray Wyatt has said and give you all that SmackDown coverage. So be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. You won't miss a thing. Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn was absent, of course, from the Raw season premiere a couple of weeks ago. The DX reunion. Of course, he's under contract to AEW. A lot of people wondered if Gunn was going to show up. Obviously, he didn't. But we've got some more information about just how close he actually was to showing up. Once again, comes from Sean Ross Sapp. Now, Billy Gunn actually almost appeared on Monday Night Raw as an AEW wrestler on the same night as a New Japan Pro Wrestling champion, and Kyle Anderson also returned to the company. We'll talk about Kyle Anderson in just a second. Now, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that Tony Khan actually specifically wanted to mention that Billy Gunn works for AEW in order to have him appear on the broadcast. And when WWE dragged their feet on making that happen, the appearance for Gunn was nixed. Now, Fightful had reported previously that WWE had at least tossed around the idea of Gunn coming in, but it actually got way more close than one would think. Fightful have been told that WWE actually went as far to prepare travel in Billy Gunn's name, thinking it was a real possibility he would be in Brooklyn for the DX reunion. Now, one of the possible solutions that Fightful were told was a lower third graphic with an AEW logo, but WWE didn't seem too keen on making that a reality. It's weird. It really is strange, this one, because I think it's petty from both sides. In reality, I can understand why Tony Khan would want a reference because it's his talent. He's under contract to AEW, and he would be doing WWE a favor. So he would want, quid pro quo in that kind of situation. WWE has been, difficult with AEW in the past, counter-programming, so why would he just completely, not put up a single fight for a WWE to use a talent? On the flip side, WWE have acknowledged other companies before. Mickie James, in January, came out in the Women's Royal Rumble to her Impact Wrestling song. She was acknowledged as the Impact Knockouts World Champion, so it's not out of the realm of possibility they would have done that. But you could argue, again, could AEW just said, look, you're a legend, it's your moment in the sun. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. It seems very petty, and it's a shame that Billy Gunn didn't appear, I guess. I'd love to know what Billy Gunn thought about it. I'd love if he wanted to come or if he was indifferent. I think that's the key thing. But it's certainly fascinating to know what could have been. Speaking of AEW, Chris Jericho, of course, recently re-signed with the company. He signed a 3-year contract extension. However, according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, there had actually been an expectation within WWE that when his original deal with AEW was up, he would end up returning. There was a belief that Jericho would end up going back to WWE for a final run with the company that would finish with an induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. Of course, that is something that could still end up happening after his new contract ends, but now that's much further down the line and remains unclear at this point. Now, Jericho had reportedly maintained a good relationship with Vince McMahon, but now he's out of the picture when it comes to the day-to-day operations. Things may have changed, so we'll have to wait and see. It must be said, though, Jericho also does have a good relationship with Triple H, saying several times they've become close friends over the years. I think there might have been this weird expectation, I think, among fans that one day Jericho would go back. And I gave that's still the possibility. If Jericho decides he wants to wrestle for 3 more years, that still doesn't rule out he could go back to WWE for one final match, one final program. But as Jericho said when he re-signed with AEW, he feels like it's his company. He was there from the beginning. Really, in that first year, particularly on Dynamite, I know it's all elite wrestling, and you can talk about the elite, you can talk about Kenny Omega, the Bucks, Cody Rhodes, Hangman Page, but really the company was built on the back of Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho gave AEW legitimacy. I think AEW would be around today, but it wouldn't have been the success that it has been, and it wouldn't have, I don't think, got the renewed or updated television deal. Jericho was the gold dust, and he was the secret source of AEW. And I know some people don't like Jericho, but the facts are there when it comes to that. And Jericho, I think, has stated he's on the biggest contract of his career, so certainly money talks. He's now a producer, a special advisor, and has got a lot to say. And he's treated certainly like one of, if not the company's top star. Would he have that in WWE? No. Do I think Jericho could one day go back to WWE? I do, but I don't think he's too caught up on that. He said before that when it comes to retirement, he's happy just to walk away. So all of that, again, is very curious. But I think it's interesting, certainly, that within WWE, they thought, wow, we think Jericho will come back one day. Carl Anderson, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE. This is fascinating. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling President Takahami Obari is reportedly unhappy over Carl Anderson's decision to withdraw from his never openweight title defense against Hikuleo at New Japan's Battle Autumn event on November 5th. Now, in a recent interview with Tokyo Sports, Obari said he was furious but declined to comment on where he stood on the issue of Anderson choosing to wrestle at Crown Jewel instead of the event in Osaka. Now, as reported previously, both are being held on the same day, causing a conflict schedule. One's in Saudi Arabia, the other's in Japan. Now, with Anderson pledging his loyalty to WWE via a video message earlier this week, the Machine Gun thanked New Japan for their cooperation over the years, and he jokingly blamed the promotion for booking him in a match on November 5th without going through his manager and partner, Doc Gallows. Again, they haven't announced where this next never open weight title defense is going to happen, but I can understand why he would be unhappy, but at the end of the day, Carl Anderson did not have a contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was on a verbal commitment. And when WWE came in and he put pen to paper, that's where his priorities is. Your priorities are with the company you have a contract with. Now, you could argue it's good form to fulfill your bookings, and he had a verbal commitment to do that first. At the same time, that Crown Jewel event is the most financially profitable event of the year for WWE and all of the wrestlers that are on it. Carl Anderson was not going to miss that. And, him pissing off New Japan Pro Wrestling, be damned, he's going to make money, and he's going to go where money talks, and money talks in WWE, and for that Saudi show specifically. And if New Japan aren't happy about that, I guess it's tough. essentially tough. Finally, the WWE Network is coming to Disney Plus in the Philippines, not in the United States or anywhere like that just yet. It's been reported that Disney Plus is set to become the home of the WWE Network in the Philippines. Disney announced this week that the service will launch on November 17. The announcement represents an expanding relationship between WWE and the Walt Disney Company. The two announced a deal in Indonesia in January. Now, similar to the Peacock deal in the United States, all premium live events and the entire library will be on the service. The Philippines is one of WWE's most popular markets in terms of weekly viewership for Raw and SmackDown. And, you know, it's interesting. It's this budding relationship between WWE and Disney. It's not out of the realm of possibility that in the future, some point in the future, could WWE be purchased by Disney? If they bought Star Wars and Marvel, anything's possible. So there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.